Welcome back to another video, guys. I'm your host NuttyNu. In today's video we're going to be discussing strictly Toyota engines. So I'm going to be discussing my personal experience with all the engines that I have worked with, I have owned. So if you guys are looking to get some opinions, or if you guys are new to the Toyota off-road or just the Toyota engines in general, or maybe you bought a new Toyota pickup or 4Runner and it might have one of the V6 or the 22RE engines and you want to get some different perspective. So this is what we're going to be discussing today. We're going to be discussing how easy it is to work on, things that I've done as far as power, personal preference, all that fun stuff. So let's dig right into it. Grab yourself a drink, grab some popcorns, grab something to eat, because this might be a little bit a long video, but I'll make sure you guys learn something from it. Back in 2013, I purchased my first Toyota pickup. This was a 3.0 X-Cab V6. Came originally with 4 AA gearings on the differential, which can handle up to about 33-inch tires. My first engine was the 3.0, also known as the 3FZ-FE. And then we're also going to talk about the 22RE, the 3RZ, which is a 4-cylinder, the newer model of the 22RE, some folks would call it. We're going to be talking about the 3.4 and also the 80 series Land Cruiser, the 1FZ-FE. So we're going to be discussing 5 engines that I personally, I have personal experience with, and I have worked on some of them. So let's talk about the infamous 3.0. A lot of people, when they hear about this engine, they hate it because it's gutless and also it's known for blowing head gasket. The 3.0 that I owned when I first bought it in 2013, that engine was flawless, completely leak free, owned by an older gentleman. I ran the VIN number and it had a head gasket recall, and he had it done in 1999. So that means from 1999 till 2013, it was good. And when I bought that vehicle, I didn't have a single problem with it. I did all my basic tune-up, never had to do a timing belt, never had to do anything crazy, just did my basic tune-up such as spark plugs, wires. I think I had one of my heater hose blew up once because it was just old and fragile, but never had any head issue or never blown a head gasket, anything like that. When I sold that vehicle, I sold it to somebody, and speaking about that, I actually saw my old truck, that back in 2013, my 93 X-Cab, 2 weeks ago, and it looks like it was in pretty rough shape, but hey, it was still running around here in my city. So didn't have any issue with the other 3.0 that I had. Was the one that I bought last year, which I did a 3.4 swap. Now let's talk about that 3.0 engine. That one, I didn't have any single issue at all. It was a completely great engine. It had about 240 plus thousand miles. I want to say under 247,000 miles when I sold that engine to do my swap, and didn't have any issue on that. I did went ahead and replaced the timing belt and did a full overhaul tune-up on it. Timing belt, didn't do a head gasket rebuild, anything like that, but I did do a full just a basic baseline tune-up because I always like to take care of my engine, make sure they're running on top notch. So that engine served me well, never had any head gasket issue. It does have a decent, or here's the thing, the 3.0 engine is better if your vehicle is a 5-speed transmission. The one that I did my 3.4 swap on, that one was a 5-speed, so the 3.0 felt like it had good power because I can manipulate which gears I want to stay in. But the 93 from 2013, that one was automatic, and that one definitely struggles when I was going uphill with my big 35-inch, even with the 4 AA gears. You know, when I was going uphill on mountains and stuff like that, my max speed was maybe 35 to 40 miles an hour, so it's definitely you can see some lag right there. And this might, another issue that might cause this is just improper gearing. A lot of folks who own 3.0 or just trucks in general with the 3.0, they like to just think of lift, tires, let's send it, and they always forget about gears and lockers. Because I was once that person. When I had my first 3.0, I put lift, big tires, and didn't bother about lockers and gears just because I was just so scared to tackle it, or just like it was just so overwhelming with, oh, I don't know what is what, and I didn't understand gears at that point. So in my opinion, The 3.0 is a decent engine if you take care of it. A lot of folks that have blown their engine, I have a feeling that they don't take care of their engine. At least they don't do the basic maintenance, change your oil and stuff like that. It's a pretty gutless engine, but it's pretty darn good. If you guys watch our off-road video, you guys know who Black Yoda is. Black Yoda is a buddy of mine, Eric, who owns the 89 SAS 35, and he's on a 3.0, and he, like, when we go off-road, he freaking full sends it. He's not scared to go. He's heavy on his foot, and so far, no issues so far. He might be doing a 3/4 swap in that truck pretty soon just because he wants to, not because he has to. Now, let's move on to the 22RE engine. So the 22RE engine was my next engine that I had, and that engine was when I started doing more complicated stuff. That was one of the engine that I started doing timing, the timing chain overhaul, and that engine was the one I had on the Green Beast solid axle truck that I bought in 2019. So when I got that 22RE, I did an EGR delete just to clean the engine bay up. It doesn't help with miles per gallon, power, anything. It just helps cleanse your engine bay up. So if you guys don't live in a state that has emission, highly recommend you guys do the EGR delete on the 22RE. It just makes it so much easier to work on your 22RE engine. So when I got the 22RE, I did a complete baseline tune-up. I went all the way down to doing a clutch, oil pan drop off, timing chain cover. I haven't done head gasket on it, but I would assume it's pretty easy. So the 22RE engine is just a famous engine for reliability, good on gas, and I highly recommend you guys go for this if you guys don't care about power. If you guys are building a off-road rig, let's say to go do overlanding or to go do hunting, and you care more about the reliability and also the gas mileage, this is the engine you want, because with this engine combined with the proper gears for your differential, you can still put big tires and have plenty of power. So a lot of people say that, oh, the 22RE is a good engine but it lacks power, and that's true. It does lack of power, but it wasn't meant to have a bunch of powers to go do some crazy mudding and stuff. That it's meant to be a reliable engine, and I definitely would choose that any day if I was to go hunting. Good on gas, super reliable, and super easy to fix. Easy to fix. Alternator, starters, all your basic stuff, belts, easy to fix. So good engines. I'm not gonna talk too much about the 22RE. I own about 2 of them, and then I worked on a few of them before, so they're fun engines to work on, and I think it's a great engine to learn because it's super simple compared to a V6 where you have 2 cylinders and just a little bit more stuff. So if you guys are new to engines and you guys want to learn how an engine works and just the basic components, you know, starter, alternator, timing belt, timing chain, how everything works, 22RE is a good engine. Now the next engine that I moved into was the 3.4, the Toyota 3.4, which was the newer version. It's the newer version from the 3.0, also known as the 5VZE. Yes, this one does have more power. This one's very popular for doing swap. If you have a 3.0 or a 22RE, a lot of people throw that engine out and put in the 5VZE. Now this 5VZE was the first engine that I've done a engine swap on. So my first time doing an engine swap, my 3.0 to a 3.4, did a full playlist video documenting the swap, so make sure you guys check that out. I'll link in the description. And I was pretty nervous about doing this swap, but this swap has been done so many times that there is so many information out there on the internet, on the web, where if you just read enough and watch enough videos, it's pretty dang easy as long as you have the proper tools and just the proper manpower and the knowledge and the commitment to do it. So 3.4, super easy to work on. Super easy to work on. Timing belt replacement is much more easier than the 3.0. You can do that in like 4 or 5 hours once you do it a few times, so that's easy to do. And if you do a 3.4 swap, once you do it, you'll know how easy it is to work on a 3.4. So highly recommend it. Good power, reliable. You do hear some head gasket failure on the 3.4, but they're usually when they're high miles, and they're not very common as much as the 3.0. Now the next engine is the next. I think this one is a good, one of the best four-cylinder out there from Toyota next to 22RE. It's the 3RZ. Some people call it, or there's the 2RZ and the 3RZ, which is pretty similar. I don't recall what the difference is, but it's pretty similar. They're still a four-cylinder. They almost look similar. The intake manifold is very similar. So the 3RZ came on the newer, the third gen Tacoma and the third gen 4Runners, like from 96 through 2003. So my Tacoma is a 5-speed 3RZ, and that one is a super easy engine to work on. That engine was one of the first engine where I actually did a head gasket. So I did my first head gasket on that motor, because when I bought that motor, it was only running on 3-cylinder because they had burnt valves on cylinder 1. We thought, or the previous owner thought, it was a fuel pump or injector, but after me troubleshooting and doing a compression test, found out that it was burnt valves. So that was my first time doing head gasket. Super sketchy, but if you read the manual book or the factory service manual book and just follow the directions, it's really easy. If I was to compare the 22RE and the 3RZ, which one is more easier to work on, I would say maybe the 3RZ. Or I would prefer the 3RZ over the 22RE. Power-wise, the 3RZ is definitely more stronger. I feel like it's more powerful, and I'm not gonna reference horsepower and all that stuff. I'm just gonna reference on how I feel and what I felt when I was driving these vehicles. 3RZ versus 22RE. 3RZ definitely have more power, in my opinion. Super great engine, good on gas. Especially with proper gearing if you put bigger tires. And a lot of folks are just very scared of the 4-cylinder. They don't like it, or they prefer the V6 when they're buying a 4Runner or a Tacoma and they hear that it has a 3RZ compared to the 5VZE. They get scared or something like that. But no, if you want just a good reliable engine, good gas saver, 3RZ is a super fun engine to work on. I would highly recommend you guys work on those too. If you don't want to work on the 22RE, work on the 3RZ. Both plenty of parts for all these engines and super easy to work on just in general. I heard the timing chain on the 3RZ is a bit complicated. I haven't done it yet, but there's so much resource and so much, like I say, videos out there that I wouldn't be scared to tackle it. Now, our last engine is the 80 series, the 1FZ-FE. Now, this is the second time I've owned it. 2018, I own it, and this is my latest Land Cruiser is the same engine, the 1FZ-FE. Now, when I first had that engine in 2018, I didn't do too much to it. I did my basic tune-up, oil filters, oil change, coolant flush, spark plugs. I didn't dig into the timing chain. I didn't dig into doing intake manifold replacement, gasket replacement. I didn't dig into front main seals or anything like that, but I like it. Now, the one I have now, it does have some leaks up in the front, which will be like the front main seal, the oil pump seals, all those common things, and I'm gonna be working on those this coming summer or this coming spring. And as far as, and during this time here, I'm doing all my research, and from what I see, it seems like a pretty easy task to do that I'm not afraid to tackle. You know, everything seems pretty difficult when you first dig into it, but once you do your research, it's pretty dang easy. Now, let's be honest, the 80 series in general, the 1FZE, it's an inline 6, so it's not a V6. Inline 6 is a straight block, straight cylinder head, stack on each other. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 cylinder lined up together. Whereas V6, V, like a 6, 3 cylinder, 3 cylinder. So that's the difference, guys. Now, let's be honest, this engine eats a lot of gas. It's a gas eater. So if you guys don't like that, don't get it. If you guys are looking for a family vehicle that has great gas mileage, definitely stay away from this 80 series. But again, this 80 series is such a good vehicle that it overweighs the gas mileage that it gets. So right now, that's really my only complaint. It gets horrible gas mileage, but I was already expecting that when I bought it. but the durability, the capability of the Land Cruiser solid axle, the room, and just the comfort level, that outweighs the gas mileage, and I can live with that. Now, I am excited to start doing some more engine work on this engine next spring. I'm gonna be replacing the radiator, all the radiator hose, doing a radiator flush, and then while I'm there, I'm gonna do the front main seal, oil pump seal, distributor seal, distributor cap, spark plugs, valve covers, gasket, spark plug wires, and those are some of the things I'm going to be doing. Changing out the front shocks, maybe. I think I still have the same front shocks. And then there's just grease all over the bell housing. So it's going to get a super clean and a crazy power wash. So right now, I can't give you guys too much feedback on the 1FZ-FE. But just a sum it up of what I've experienced so far. I love this engine. It seems pretty easy to work on. There are, I feel, according to my research and watching other people's video, there are a few more things where you have to take off versus like compared to the V6 3.4, etc, etc. But so far it's pretty easy. The pesky heater hose, mine was leaking after like after 300 miles since I owned it, and I went ahead and did a pesky heater hose. It's not super bad as long as you just follow the directions, remove your tranny dipstick. It's pretty easy. I did that when it was like almost like 10 degrees outside. So if I can do it when it's super freezing outside, you can definitely do it if you're in a warmer state, or if you have a garage. It's definitely doable. So don't overthink it. Just having the right tools and the proper knowledge makes it easier to work on. And I think a lot of people like that. They either don't have the right tools, or they haven't done enough research and just following the research. They haven't followed the research or the instructions, or they haven't read enough about people's mistake. Because I like to also read about people's mistake and what to avoid when doing these kind of engine work. Because for me as the owner of these vehicles, like one of the most important thing for me is making sure my engine is in top notch. Because I live in Alaska, and a lot of the places that I go to is like anywhere from 2 to 10 plus hours away from home, or away from the nearest parts stores or service store. You know, and when you live in Alaska, you're going traveling, you can get way out there where there's no help, and you always want to make sure your vehicle is in top notch. So that's why when I buy a new vehicle or a new used vehicle, the first thing I do is my engine tune-up baseline, make sure it's in top notch, leak free. I love having a leak free engine. The Land Cruiser right now isn't leak free yet, but I'm working on that next spring. 3.4 is a great engine, great power, super easy to work on. 3.0 is a decent engine. It's not super bad. It does have its own problem, but I think if you take care of it properly and don't beat the heck out of it, don't redline the heck out of it, you'll be fine. 22RE, super easy to learn, super reliable, and parts are just everywhere. You can find parts locally. You can find parts online if you're rebuilding the engine, whatever. So super easy to work on. 3RZ is easy to work on, with great power, better than the 22RE. I do find that the 3RZ sometimes it is a bit harder to find parts locally, because I guess not enough people have broken 3RZ. It just runs so good that you don't find them a lot at the junkyard, or at least for me, I don't find them at the junkyard. So it's a really reliable engine if you take care of it. They are known for having the valve burnt on cylinder 1 and 6, I believe. So definitely check that out, because I bought my Tacoma with the burnt valve. So make sure if when you buy a vehicle, if you're having a misfire, you definitely want to make sure you do a compression test. Don't even bother with changing spark plug. Don't bother changing injectors, fuel pump. Just go straight to a compression test, and you can just rent the tool from your local parts store, screw it into your spark plug, and do a compression test. Super easy to do that. Anybody can do it. So great engine in general. I definitely would choose 3.4, 3RZ, 22RE, and then the 1FZE. I actually would choose that one too when it comes to the V6. It's just that. Well, here, let's do this way. 1FZE for being the top 6-cylinder out of these lists. Only thing bad is just horrible gas mileage, but it is what it is. If they can make that 1FZ-E as good as the 3.4 gas mileage, I think that would have been one of the best engines, or at least one of the best V6 engines. But despite the poor gas mileage, it's still a bulletproof tank, or just a bulletproof engine. So you have that. The 3.4 3.0 is last on the list for the V6, and then for me, I like the 3RZ compared to the 22RE. So those are my personal opinions, personal experience with these 5 engines, and personal mechanic experience with these engines. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know what you guys think, if you guys have experienced any of these engines. Me personally, I didn't really chose to work on these engines. I just bought these vehicles, and hey, they came with this engine, and I just, hey, let's go learn about it. And everything that I learned is all self-taught. Some people, friends taught me, or internet with YouTube forums. So everything I learned is pretty much self-taught. There's and most of the work I've done is just basically myself. Simple power tools, simple hand tools. When I did my 3.4 swap, I was using a buddy's shop because it was winter time. He had a car lift, but even without the car lift, everything is super doable. You don't need the best tools. You don't need to go air tools. You don't need to go anything like that. You just need the right tools to do the job. So don't get frustrated. It's super easy to work on. These are all fun engines to learn, and I've learned a lot from these, just working on these engines. My next goal is to definitely do a full engine rebuild. I would love to do a full engine rebuild on a 3.4. Just take it all apart and do a full engine rebuild, pistons, rods, cylinder head, and I think that would be super fun to do, and I think I will learn a lot from that. The thing with full engine rebuild is that when you do those things, you just have to follow the instructions, follow the measurements, follow all the specs, because it's an engine that requires precise measurements. You can't just slap it on and be like, oh, it's good enough. So that's the only thing that's hard about these. You just gotta make sure everything's in spec, torque to specs, and procedures, and you should be fine. So that's gonna wrap up this video on my personal experience with these 5 engines. And again, in the comment section, let me know what you guys think, if you guys have owned these engines, and if you guys have driven them, and if you guys have worked on them. We want to hear personal experience. I don't want to hear about horsepower, or your typical on the paper cheat sheet. Let me know what you guys think, if you guys have owned these engines, and make sure to follow the Instagram NuttyNu_4x4, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.